Jacos.
Hey Brad, how are you?
Oh, well, thanks. You can hear me.
I can. Yep.
That's amazing. I don't understand why. Let me see. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Is hearing you a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's great.
Okay. So do I.
It's amazing. And I can hear you. Oh,
Jacos. Hey Brad, how are you?
I'm well, thanks.
yes.
Can you
And
hear me?
YouTube can hear us as well.
I can. Yep.
That's amazing. I don't know.
Okay, hang on. Hello. And holy moly, it's Brad Fuller. I don't know if my name came up, but even if it didn't, it doesn't change anything. Hi, Brad here. And yes, I have the GBL t-shirt on today, and also been pretty excited to walk around with my Yes badge. Been walking around my community, and I even checked this out. I went to main campus of Sydney Uni the other day, and walked around with the young people at main campus of Sydney Uni with my badge on. That was pretty blooming exciting. So today, I'd like to welcome you to the same thing again. But wait, I meant to do that. So it's the weekly jam, and you might have noticed that Pete isn't here yet, but that's not that uncommon. He's on the road, and so I thought today we might have a roving reporter, and so check this out for our news this week.
Yeah.
It actually worked. He said incredulously, "Hello, Pete."
Yes, live from the streets of Scone,
Yes.
also known as Scone.
Yup. So Pete is this. Well, this is. I think this is like episode 4 of the weekly jam, and Pete is out roving. So I thought it'd be really cool for our GBL weekly news this week to find out why Pete isn't here. Pete, why aren't you here?
Hey Brad, it's nice to be here. I am on the road, not just because I like going to Scone, but because I'm part of a band called Hot Potato Band, and I'm actually in the car with me right now, enjoying the weekly jam. Thanks, Brad.
Yes.
And we've been touring regional New South Wales. We found ourselves in Tamworth over the last 2 days. The Conservatorium of Music there got in touch with us because we do school workshops and concerts, and occasionally Conservatorium has a little bit of money and can get a band out, and one of those bands is usually Hot Potato Band. And so we enjoyed some workshops in the afternoon with some Conservatorium students, followed by a gig in the grounds of the con. They get touring artists in to do like a nice 2-set gig. And today we did an all-day workshop at a local school called Corinna. And it was an interesting one because they got in touch saying, we've got all these year 8 mandatory students, and we've got not enough hours left in the year. Can you solve a big problem and put on an all-day workshop for mandatory year 8? And for our listeners at home, they would all know that's the worst job in the world.
Could I just say props?
All day with year 8.
Could I say props to that school for outsourcing? That's classic Pete and Brad. That is fantastic.
Brutal, way, absolutely brutal. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm keen. I'm keen for the challenge. So let's go into, can I tell you about the lesson plan? Because I kind of employed a bit of GBL in there.
Yep.
And so the idea was that we would put on a gig. This is crazy. We got 80 students in year 8. And the idea was to put on a gig with all of year 8, so 80 people in the band, with all of Hot Potato Band, to year 5, 6, and 7. So we had 300 people in the concert. That was at the end of the day. So we had to get from year 8 to gig ready in the space of 1 day. And so we show them a little bit about the layers of sound and how to arrange music, and like how to be in a band, how to play the rhythmic role, the bass role, harmonic and melodic role, and then broke down an original piece of music of ours and just jammed all day. Did the weekly jam, but and worked on performance technique and putting together a coherent performance. And we did it.
Mission accomplished.
Mission pop last period on a Thursday with Year 8. Smashed it. Glockenspiels, xylophones, wireless microphones, saxophones.
Djembe.
25,
So many djembes.
25 djembes. Yeah, but we got it done, and actually it was a really beautiful time. And you know, channeling all the vibe of Year 8 into a gig was really beautiful. I think that's a really cool challenge. So that was us today, and I'm not sure if you can tell, but my voice is like on the way out because there's a lot of vibe in the room.
That's amazing. So you had teacher voice, pulled out the Mr. O voice. Did you have a microphone?
I had a microphone, but I'll say to the boys at lunch, I was like, sorry to go all Mr. O, but Year 8, you know. Also, I was relating it back to authentic learning experiences of the gig, and for us, like, getting on stage is really important. So there's a time to listen, time to be quiet, and there's time for vibe, time to play your heart out and give it your all. And so those moments where we're going to be quiet and listening, be quiet, and then those moments where we're play hard and absolutely give it. So when they weren't being quiet, I had to get all Mr. O on them. But that's all right. I think it's good. It's all about the gig, man.
Yeah, and I think that's a one-off as well, right? So it takes a while to, it takes a long time to build a culture. So yeah,
That's true.
and then something I think we don't talk about much is the hierarchy of prompts. So this notion that yelling out and pointing, "You're all under tension." That's a high up on the hierarchy of prompts, or probably low down. I haven't thought about this for a while. And then this idea that you might need to come in high up the pecking order of prompts with losing your voice, and you're all you and you're all under tension. My office now.
Yeah.
But that's there, right? And then the idea is, so the people don't know. The people don't know how to be until we induct them into this is the way to be. And so as you do that, and I think a problem is when we stay at that level, but this whole notion of the hierarchy of prompts is that, and it kind of fits in with teacher fades as well, so that you model or you describe and you model what is appropriate, and then you remind. And once you've modeled, then you might stay up in the hierarchy of prompts to just and it's called a prompt because you're prompting them to remember what you've agreed on. And so a verbal prompt and a gestural prompt together, that's pretty high up the list. And then you just eventually you come down the list of prompts so that it might be just a slight wiggle of the left ear is enough to pretend. You just wiggle your left ear, and that could be enough. It could be enough to just remind. So, and it's a prompt, right? So nobody knows how to be until somebody shows us, and that's why it's all about the gig is so important, because we're not inventing rules. What Dewey says, we're welcoming the young people into show business, and there's a way of being in show business, which is what the hot pots bring. And so that culture so you're welcoming those students into the hot pot culture, which they don't know because they're not in the hot pots.
Yeah.
So that's really cool,
Yeah,
Pete.
one of the first things we say is welcome to the band. You're part of the hot potato band today.
Yes.
Funny story about detention though, on a slight tangent, is like we finished our first rehearsal and like people vibed out of their brains, and then the principal comes in and goes, "Just a reminder, detention is down the hall. Don't forget." And everyone's like, "Oh."
Yeah, reality
Thanks,
encroaches.
principal.
Yeah,
great.
so I want to riff some more as we go along on rules and regulations and classroom management and stuff. And I think, Pete, you said a while ago, wherever we were, what do we think about rules? And musicians love rules, but we love the right rules. We love show business rules, which are those kind of rules that you talked about before, about when it's time to go, give it all you got. And they're different. They're just different. And so I want to talk some more about, we talk about authenticity. And so classroom management is something that can be done authentically as well. And so I hope to break down for everybody just our approach in our classroom about welcome to show business. And this is how when musicians come together, this is how we do it. And so that you're not inventing school rules and that whole idea about let's write down the classroom rules. You circumvent or circumnavigate or something, all of that, because there's already rules. There's already rules for show business, and the cats have worked it out, and we're just jamming with the cats. So this is how we do it. Yeah, so that I think that's really exciting, and I think thank you for that, because that reminds us of something I think that we want to talk about from our classroom. So what was it you were saying? You were saying about I've lost it, but it was about show business and rules, and we just have one rule: the show must go on, and everything falls under that.
I think for us, there's a lot of workshop bands out there, and a lot of really great ones. Like Musica Viva do their thing really well. But our angle for us is we don't really have to do the workshop thing. We're a touring band, and so we just want to give them that experience. It's like, this is how we work. So something else we did today was we've been doing TikTok content and YouTube shorts, and so we outlined the layers of sound and how we arrange like popular music for brass band context, and then we said, does anyone have any song requests? And we applied that same framework live in front of their eyes. So we just invited them into a rehearsal essentially, and we talked. We didn't have to talk much, but we just let it out raw. And so that authentic experience, which is kind of a scary place to be as a teacher, because you make mistakes in front of their eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I don't have the best ear. Turns out Jacob in the back seat has perfect pitch, so he helps me a lot. So a lot.
Nice. But isn't that a great thing about you don't have to bring everything? That's the whole point. Like, we're actually made incomplete because we're supposed to live in community, and if you have all the tools you need, then you don't need other people. So I think that's really beautiful. I was pretty hippie there for a minute, but we're not. So that's really, so a couple of things there. So first of all, you guys making yourself vulnerable and showing that you're not 100% of everything, but when you come together as a group. And that's the thing about when we come together as a group, there's just some sort of universal principle that goes, it's going to be okay. Somebody will know how to do it.
Or if not, we can work it out.
We can work it out. Stevie Wonder.
Might take a few lessons, but yeah. Let's learn together. That blurring of teacher-student, musician-teacher-student,
yeah,
begins to happen, and that's where a relationship forms as well.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I think there's so many people walking around all anxious about what if people find out that I can't do everything.
Yeah,
That it's, I
I got to
think
stay
it's
up
just,
the night before and lesson plan until 1 a.m. because I need to know everything.
yeah, yeah. And it's, I think it can be such a powerful lesson for us and for our students, the people around us, when we come in and go, I don't know, let's work it out, like human beings do. Yeah. I was thinking too. Then what I wanted to pick up on was what you were talking about um, time for different things, and you were talking about
Yeah, sure.
and in our classroom we talked about switch on, switch off a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
And we haven't really talked about that with the GBL community, but it's all queued up. This notion of musicians do a lot of waiting, and knowing when it's time to switch on, and knowing when it's time to switch off, I think ties in beautifully with what you're saying about. What did you call it in the hot pot terms?
What do I call it, Luke? Gonna phone a friend. Like, there's a time for silence. Well, sorry, a time for listening, a time for playing.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
Nice.
generally the way, but yeah.
Yeah. And the time when it's time for listening, put your axe on a stand. I reckon that's not a bad way
The
to
only-
approach it as well.
The only problem with that is that assumes that listening doesn't happen while you play, which is
I was
false.
going, yes.
But like,
Yeah.
it's a starting point to understand the concept of listening.
That's right.
Um,
Because
but yeah,
we're
maybe
always
that-
listening.
Maybe that needs work.
Yeah. Yep. That's really good. I think we definitely need to do lots of work on listening. Fortunately, the cats D&M and a few other cats have written some pretty heavy stuff on listening and all of that. So yeah, all right, I'm popping that on the list as well. Cool. Well, that's really good. That was some good food for thought. So, and people don't know that we used to teach. In fact, Jacos is here today. GBLer Jacos and Jacob
Yes.
are around.
I was watching the live stream and I saw you guys interact behind the blurry screen. And I got FOMO. I want a part of the weekly jam.
Yeah.
Which is, FYI, small plug. If you want in on the Zoom call, follow the link below to our community. You're very welcome to come join.
Yeah, which brings us to, so we have 15 minutes on Zoom where we chat with the community members, and then we offer this up to the other 7 point whatever billion people of the world for half an hour. And by the way, I'm so excited I wonder if I can, could somebody please make a comment on YouTube, because I'm ready to go. I spent a week getting ready just in case somebody was to make a comment on YouTube. I'm ready. I just want everyone to
Very
know
excited.
that I'm ready to go. And so so we do 15 minutes before on Zoom, then we do a half an hour here on YouTube, which is, we're working towards a tight show. And then, oh wow, okay, all right, ready?
Yeah, man.
That's one of the greatest things that's ever happened. Thanks, Jacob. Jacob says, yo, ready? Watch. It goes away.
I can't
And
see
then-
it. Is it just
Stand
me?
by. Let's see if I can make it come up.
This is GBL history here, guys.
I'm seeing it.
And you're part of it. Okay,
Yep.
maybe
I'm
my screen is sunlit. I can't
I'm
see.
definitely seeing it. And
My
it
band
says
members
yo.
will have to fact checked.
Yeah. Oh, I can see it on YouTube as well.
Okay,
And I even
great.
did a little thing. Let's see. Is it Yes, it's coming in. Ready? It's coming in from the bottom. I'm pretty excited about that. Which brings me to, if you wouldn't mind, thanks, Jacob. That's the greatest thing that's ever happened. And now, I can't even tell you. I spent so long on that. Because did you know that there's this new thing? No one in the world knows about it yet. But watch this. You can see if this works. So you can have it. Yes. I don't think you'll be able to see this, Pete, but you can have the comments spin in. Ready?
Yes, I saw it.
I'm going to spin it out again. Half an hour of somewhat, yeah. I'm going to leave, if it's okay, I'm going to leave that for now because no one else you have to be on the beta to actually get that.
Oh,
Which
wow.
brings me to this other thing, because we're currently in GBL News, so I just wanted to point out our lower thirds that we have this week that took up quite a bit of my life. And so we're currently in GBL News, Music, Education, Technology, and that's featuring the new little GBL logo for the weekly jam coming in. And so, all right, well that's good, Pete. I
Amazing.
think
Thanks
that
for
was
having me, Brad Fuller.
pretty good GBL news, I think.
Yeah. What's been happening in your land?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Are you ready for another segment?
I'm so ready.
All right, let's see. Yeah, all right. Okay, so the only problem was that I forgot to take that lower third off. But I've got a lower third for Bradagogy, behind the scenes. And so Bradagogy, as you might have just seen, I wonder if we... Nice. The intersection of Brad and pedagogy. And I've written about it this week in the blog and on the podcast. So that's what I've been up to, Pete. And so if it's okay with you, I thought we might pop across and just do a quick catch up on what we've been up to. And let's see if we go into this view. Oh, there you are. Do you mind staying on the screen, Pete?
Yeah, I can stay in for sure.
You're very welcome. And so,
Do you want to know which town I'm going through right now?
yes, please.
Where are we?
Musselbrook.
Musselbrook.
Oh, Muswell.
Yeah, look at this, the brook. We made it from Scone to Musselbrook with the weekly jam.
Yes. What a great... So people could commute home. That's a great idea. Commute home with the jam.
Yeah.
Okay, so what have I been up to? So each week, so I think this would be really cool if it worked this way. We publish the blog post via email and it goes live on Mondays at 10 a.m. and it all comes out as a podcast. And so it comes out on the Monday and then I'd like to talk about it in this Bradagogy behind the scenes segment. And I think in order to catch us up, we're up to the 4th episode, and in case you hadn't noticed, I'm building a case week by week in about something like 1,000 words at a time, building a case for a philosophically based, pedagogically enriched way of doing music education, which we call gig-based learning. So it's taking me a while, and the first thing that I'm trying to deal with is dealing with and setting up a way to think philosophically and critically about what we do, is to start to introduce some issues that we face in life and music education. And we haven't actually talked, I won't give away that tagline yet. So in rabbit season, duck season, I talked about this briefly last week, this notion of either ors that we seem to be stuck in education, and particularly music education. And I pointed out how it's kind of like Elmer Fudd having to choose between rabbit season and duck season, and depending on which choice he makes, somebody gets their head blown up. But it's okay, because it's the cartoons, Daffy, and it's always Daffy Duck, and he just readjusts his bill and everything's okay. And in the blog post, I just talked about that we have lots of either-ors in music education, and the thing is that these things are essentially contested concepts. So when you say, is it better to do this or that, we have an issue, because we can't come to consensus, because these aren't the sorts of things that are easy to come to consensus on. So we're forever caught in this either-or approach. And so here I just laid out some things for us to think about, like it's down here I said, it's explicit instruction season. No, it's project-based learning season. No, it's informal learning season. No, it's formal learning season, or whatever. And so we're forever having these fights, which means that we don't actually get on with it. And even worse than the fighting, because bosses have the power, if bosses aren't aware of this whole either-or thing and the essentially contested concepts, and if they're not critical thinkers, and they come to the music teacher and say, this is the way you have to do it, if you don't know about either-ors, if you don't know about contested concepts, then you're vulnerable to that sort of thinking from the bosses as well. So, and bang, I said. I just wanted to point out too that I've got Brad's bookmarks, and this is kind of goes back a really long time, because I've been sending Pete, hey Pete, check this out, and Pete sends me, hey Brad, check this out. And we thought it would be really good to just share them with you in lieu of social media and stuff, so you don't have to go into...
Essentially what you're getting there, everyone, is Brad and I's text chain throughout the week.
Yeah. And also I've got this thing, Brad's bombshells. And as I'm going along, I have a hierarchy of highlighting, and if it gets to the blue highlighter, that's a bombshell. And so the bombshell of the week for week one was, ever since 1980, the word pedagogy has blown up. And so I deal with that in a later post. Look at that. Holy smokes. No one's talking about it. Little blip here. And then all of a sudden, there's pedagogues everywhere. So that was that. In the second week, I read a book as part of my studies that I had to take back to the library. And so it was called Learning to Change, Teaching Beyond Subjects and Standards in 2001. And so I just went back to it, and I thought you should know about it because, well, we're supposed to be beyond subjects and standards by now, and it's 20 years later. And so I thought, well, this was a really great book, and it was quite widely read, and so it should have worked, so everything should be cool. But they said a new orthodoxy of schooling appears to be emerging in many parts of the world, especially the predominantly Anglophone nations. And look at this, growing concern worldwide about the apparent disengagement of many young adolescents from their schooling and the risks they increasingly encounter in their lives. Holy smokes. And then they said 20 years ago, standards-based reform appears to have an ambivalent relationship to the kinds of schooling and teaching that works best for young adolescents, especially those who are most at risk. And so 20 years later, and they said, wouldn't it be great, whereas standards push the curriculum towards detailed central prescription, the needs of today's diverse adolescents call for flexibility and contextualized integrated curriculum and involving students. And so that's 20 years ago. And turns out that I don't think that was very widely adopted, and in fact it was more of a double down on the standards. So I've said it's up to us to save ourselves by fighting for our right to party. And they actually said down here, it was pretty amazing, 20 years ago, imagine if we would have formed the gig-based learning community of practice then. I found this to be really powerful. I hope you do too. 2001, they said that the work is complex and demanding, changes in our classrooms won't be wholly romantic, and our achievements won't be won easily. And I think as we talk to people in the community, it isn't romantic work all the time. And these changes aren't won, the battles aren't won easily. And this is where we hope to help. It's going to require intense intellectual work. And so we've been certainly doing our best to contribute to some intense intellectual work. But look at this: interpret policies and principles, turn them into working
Yeah, I
realities.
think that's a good point, Brad.
Yeah, which one? All of it.
You got me. I think it's just going to pause you there because I think it's worth emphasizing the lack of time teachers have to research and actually work out a position. Not like occasionally you get inspiration to go do it, or you do some master's studies, like some postgrad, which take you through some things. But we just hope to give people the confidence, right, and also outline the cats, which maybe is what your next point is about. But
Yeah.
you've done extensive reading over the last 5 years with your PhD.
Yep.
And together we've read a lot, and I just think, yeah, it'd be great to hear from people what contested terms or what battles they're facing,
Yeah. Nice.
and how we could help them. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, and I think if we just pick up on those words, complex and demanding. So when people come to you and say it's simple, you just do it like this. Red flag, danger. We need to approach that with caution, and we need to just recognise that it won't be won easily. This is hard work, and immense amounts of emotional labour. That's really important. But then,
Yeah.
all of that, the whole point is we take that and turn them into working realities in our classroom. That's our job. So whatever it is that's served up to us, we filter it through all of that and turn them into working realities. So I've said that we're standing between whatever it is that the syllabuses and the bosses and the standards. That's all great, but it's the teacher's job to turn that into a working reality in your context. And up here, contextualized integrated curriculum. That was 20 years ago. The young adolescents push the best teachers towards involving students in defining, interpreting, and being more involved in setting and reaching high standards of learning. Where from? The government? No, themselves. Yeah, holy smokes. And thank you, Hargraves et al. That was an incredible book then. And if everybody would have just read... And, you know, Pete, the thing that really made me excited, I just had to take the book back to the library, which really hurt me, because I borrowed it from from QUT in Queensland, and they needed it back to put into storage, let's face it. So I was just summarising it because I was sad to give it back. But I couldn't believe when they said the authors suggest a focus on processes of teacher inquiry, which is what we're doing, trying to work stuff out, going to the literature, and get this, on building professional communities of practice, where teachers experience, like you were saying, Pete, the time, encouragement, and working together. And then they also said, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon, funding for teacher inquiry and collegial discussion to take place in school time. Right. And so...
or on your commute home.
Yes. So we're not there yet, and so we're in the clouds and stuff. But how about that? So there you go. It's a fat book, and I've just picked the best bits. So far, I just think that we're kind of trying to find these essentially contested concepts that our profession's based on, And then this very next book says, come together in community, you're going to need each other to get this work done. And then just really quickly, we've been writing about the cats of music education, and part of solving this problem is knowing what's already been said. And so so I wrote about how Pete and I introduced the coolest thing ever, the cats of music, in Year 7. And in the blog I talk about how cool it was when a 12-year-old makes a connection to a past master and says something like, "That composer was a really heavy cat." Some of my favourite ever experiences. Yep, tiny little girl.
So cute.
And something that's blew my mind was this idea of, and Pete and I love Marilyn Cochrane-Smith. She talks about historical amnesia, which is a concept that she borrowed from a guy called Jacobi in 1975. He talks about social amnesia, and the man uses social amnesia to pretend that what we're going through has never happened before. And when you start to connect with history, you realize that actually we've been around this before. And so connecting to the past in music education is critical. And so we wanted to highlight the cats, and because Nell Nodding says, check this out, each generation must examine the responses of previous generations to choose what to retain. This is really cool, right? What to retain and what to reimagine as they respond to changing conditions in their world. So that's the job. And I just bringing this back to music, Pete, I signed off with, as a musician, I'm just jamming with the cats. I listen, watch, learn, and join the cats of music. As a music educator, I'm just jamming with the cats. I listen, watch, learn, and join the cats of music education. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're just jamming with the cats. And so you all are cats of music education, and we're jamming. So there you go. I think that gets us... We're almost caught up, but
Love
not
it.
quite. Couple more podcasts in the can. Really excited. Can't wait to share, because I'm already in the future, and I'm just waiting for you guys to catch up. So that's really cool. Just want to sign off with, don't forget that we're here, school.com, and you can find us via this gig-based learning. It's not the most pictorially satisfying, but when you get down here, look, we have a 3-step approach. 1, 2, 3, GBL podcast, GBL newsletter, GBL YouTube channel, and up the top here you can join us, and when you click that button it takes you to some information about our community of practice, free to join, and then, but if you want to become, oh my gosh, we've unlocked the kingdom and we have a paid tier, because I don't know if you've noticed, but Pete and I, well, Pete's got to drive around Muswellbrook, and somebody's got to pay the bills. So we have, we're trying to do this. Our dream is to do this 24/7 and just be here thinking and making resources with you and for you. So if you'd like to support us, you can buymeacoffee.com/GBLer. I've always wanted to use that button. But that's not really going to help you. It'd be much more helpful for you if you sign up for the free community, and then if you think, that sounds good, I want more, then get in contact and we can work out a way to generate an invoice for you to give to the bosses, which I think would be pretty cool. All right. Well, that's... I've really enjoyed, Pete. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed the sound of the open road in the background, and I was a little bit... I was being moping around, actually thinking, oh, Pete's not going to be here. So it's blown my brain. You actually are. So,
I'm glad we could make it happen, and it won't be
oh, that's so funny. That's so funny that you went glitchy just as you were doing the sign off. Are you back again yet? No, you've gone. Isn't that funny? You went glitchy just for the sign off. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off. Just if you're still there, other GBLers, I'd just like to say goodbye on Zoom before you go, if we could. But for now, thanks everyone. And if I can find a stinger, I'm going to say goodbye until next time.